Hey guys, so today I want to take a look at the retro Spider-Man figure that everyone's going on about how awesome it is. So I bought this and it's okay, it's not the most amazing Spider-Man, no pun intended, but just want to compare it to some of the older figures. So there's a lot of people are saying like this is the best Spider-Man figure ever, blah blah blah. But when you take a look back at older figures, I think some of them actually are a lot better or have a lot better aspects to them than this one does in general. So first we'll have a look at the retro Spider-Man up close for those who aren't familiar with it. So you can see everyone's pretty familiar with this figure by now, but he's quite basic looking. I know he's based on the animated one, so can't give him too much flack for that, but he's just fine. He looks like a Marvel Legends figure. Nothing particularly remarkable. It's just a smooth body that's painted, good articulation, looks like Spider-Man. Does the job. And so I think that's why I was quite surprised when everyone's going on about how he's like one of the best figures of the year. And I sort of had him and I was like, is he? So I just want to compare him with some of the other old school Spider-Man figures. So here we've got the old school Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So this came out in, when did this come out? 2002, and that's 97 or 98, yeah. So this figure came out in 2002. So I got this when it came out, so I was a kid. And luckily I didn't play with it too much, so the articulation's nice and all the joints are nice and tight, and he's still in really good nick. But you have a look at him, and you can see all the little web detail is actually sculpted in. He's got texture all across the bodysuit. All of it's sculpted. The spider is sculpted. You've got a sort of silver metallic paint on the eyes. The raised webbing is painted silver, just like the movie. There's a dry brush, a slight dry brushing on the bodysuit. It just looks really good. And, and this came out, 18, 19 years ago, and it still looks fantastic. Like I put this next to, on the shelf, and you can't tell that it came out that long ago, which is a pretty impressive. And it's still got all the, decently modern articulation. So you can see his arms go out to the side. He's got a bicep swivel. Yes, it's not fantastic. It does look a bit ugly, but it still functions. He's got I think that this is kind of cool. I like the old Spider-Man figures did this articulated middle fingers so he can do the web hands. And again, I prefer swap out hands, but it's still cool they did it. You've got a cut at the forearm, which is actually hidden, which looks cool. He's it's all the articulation is there, but the sculpting is so much better. Yeah, the proportions are a little weird in places, like his waist is probably a bit too small. He's not that broad, but at the same time, there's just a lot more paint and looks like a lot more care's gone into making this figure. And this would have come out, I'm trying to remember, but it would have been about the same price as Marvel Legends, maybe, or probably was cheaper. And I think he came with a gargoyle that he could sit on, which is really cool. And to think, again, this is such an old figure, and then you look at it compared to the retro Spider-Man, and you're like, is the retro Spider-Man that good? Like, compared to what they used to be able to do for a similar or cheaper price point, it's I don't know, it's debatable whether that Spider-Man is actually that good. He's got all the ankle rockers, toe hinge, but just the paint is so well done. It's yeah, I don't know. It kind of makes you reconsider the Marvel Legends that are coming out now and how good they actually are. Even when you compare this to the I don't actually have any in myself, but the Tom Holland Spider-Man figures. And they, like, one of them came out and none of the spider web pattern across his body was painted. But this figure has the painted web, so you wonder why they couldn't do that. Again, similar price point. It's just odd that they could do this back then so well and yet don't do it anymore. And I know this was probably a different company. I think it was Toybiz, and they were bought. I think the Hasbro bought them, but it's still, I don't know. It's unusual, disappointing. And again, I was shocked to get this figure in hand after so long and compare it, and even compared to some of the import figures, this still stands up next to them and looks really good. Like the Mafex Classic Spider-Man, this still looks really good next to him, which is kind of good, but also disappointing because those figures are so expensive. Anyway, a lot of people sort of praise highly articulated figures, but at the same time, when we look back at some of the older figures, like this one here, I think could be my favorite Spider-Man figure of all time, maybe. It's all pre-posed. You can see limited articulation, but it's such a cool sculpt. Like, you look at the detail on that, and it stands out. Yes, it is pre-posed. Yes, the proportions are a little bit funny, but at the same time, it just looks so cool. Like, it looks like he's just jumped right off the page. And this came out in, let's have a look, 1997. They managed to make a figure that looks this cool in 1997. He's got, like, there's a bit of silver, a silver paint wash in the cracks of his muscles. All the webbing is painted. The sculpt is really good. I think this is why this figure looks so good, and it's aged so well. Like, that head sculpt is very McFarlane-esque, and it just looks awesome. And this was a variant. I think the original was blue instead of black. But again, why can't we have figures looking like this, but with the articulation of the retro Spider-Man? Do you know what I mean? It's just, like, you compare the two, and I know which one I think looks better. I don't know what you think. But this retro Spider-Man just looks so bland. I know he's based on the animated one, but it just, I don't know. It lacks character, whereas this one has a lot of personality, even though it's pre-posed. He's got this sort of disproportionately large fingers and hands, tiny waist, but this one's just like, I don't know, kind of, it's like vanilla ice cream. These are all like Black Forest, and this is Neapolitan, you know what I mean? And again, you could compare it to, maybe the retro Spider-Man's a bad example, but we've got the Venom figure, which was my figure of the year last year. Okay, and that's a bit different. So this one is actually really well done. But again, I wonder why they can't do all the figures to this quality. You know what I mean? It's got all the sculpted detail, it's got the paint, it's got the really nice head sculpt. It's, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that was just a little random rant on figure quality, and how just because it's newer doesn't necessarily mean it's better. And again, not saying that this is a bad figure, it's just, when you compare it to the past, these older figures do still have merit, they're still worth getting, even though the price has probably gone up. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment below, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.